Hello, hello. Welcome, everyone, and good morning. This is Sarah, and I'm about to go live, or I am live, just getting my thoughts together this morning. But we are doing our Wellness Wednesday interview today, and it's a special interview because normally we're doing these interviews a little later in the day. But I did want to bring on a very wonderful woman that I've connected with on social media. And she is actually located in India. I'm on the West Coast in California. So we created this opportunity to come together. And hopefully, you can just sit back and relax, grab your tea, grab your coffee, and just have an enjoyable time with us this morning. We're going to be chatting about astrology, femininity, and sensitivity. We're going to be talking about Pavrita's work. So let me go ahead and read Pavrita's bio here and let you know a little bit about her. So Pavitra Gurumurthi, her work is encompassed in one phrase, walking the path of tender authority, where she guides strong, independent women who are highly sensitive to recognize the gifts held in their deeply empathetic and mystical nature, to embrace a life that honors both their soft femininity and warrior spirit energy. Part of this work includes embodied astrological readings that are therapeutic in nature. Her readings are mainly focused on the evolutionary aspects of the emotional body through feelings and sensations. And Pavrita is currently based in India, as I mentioned, after having returned home, living away actually for nearly 20 years. And many travel to India to find themselves, but Pavrita had to leave India to find herself. Her journey, like many, is one of pain and pleasure, death and rebirth, darkness and light, of stillness and being alive. You will often find her on her own, joyfully weaving her mystical nature with the real world in her work and her everyday life. So I'm going to bring Pavrita on in just a moment. I do want to let you know, I encourage you to stay to the end of this interview because Pavrita and I are actually going to be talking not only about all of these really provocative and interesting topics, but we're also going to be having a conversation about YouTube. So for anyone who's new to my channel, what I do here on this channel is I talk about video production and video marketing because I run a video production, video marketing company. But I work with wellness business owners, and I love having these conversations with people, getting to know their business. But I also want to help you, and I want to help my guests get to know how they can grow their own YouTube channel, because that only helps them get their message out even further. So these tips are going to be really helpful to you. So go ahead. We're going to get into that at the end of the conversation in about 25, 30 minutes. All right. So let's bring on Pavrita here. Hello, Pavrita.
Hi, Sarah. What a lovely introduction. And I love your screen presence, by the way.
Oh, thank you so much. I feel the same about you. I watch your YouTube, your mostly your Instagram videos, and we've connected on Instagram for a long time, and yeah, I just feel really honored, and this is just a special morning, to be, because usually I'm getting on Instagram right in the morning, and I get to check in on your stories. And yeah, I mean, you just do a wonderful job, creating a presence on Instagram. So thanks
Thank
for
you.
being.
Mirror reflection.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and dive in. I'm really curious if you could just share a little bit, just share with us for a few minutes about your journey forming your business and how you decided to offer astrological readings, as you say, that are therapeutic, and then also to be a coach for women, especially highly sensitive women.
Such a beautiful question. In a few minutes, that's going to be challenging.
Yeah.
um, To be honest, I think my work is really based on my whole life experience and everything that I have been through, mostly in terms of my emotions and how I've over time had to learn how to um, understand how my nervous system is naturally in its innate state, um, you know, uh, lives and breathes, and then how my any childhood traumatic experiences have impacted that innate state of my nervous system. And this goes for
Mhm.
everybody, and how to learn to consistently bring it back to some equilibrium, and if not, to regulate it in some way that helps me be a functional human being in society,
Mhm.
and to show up for myself and for people in the world. And astrology came into it because it was the very foundation of what I say this often, that astrology saved me, because in a way it took me into a deep uh, cave because of the experiences I had with astrology, and then it actually brought me out of it as well, in that it helped me understand my make as this human body living this lifetime, and
Wow.
how uh, my emotions show up, and how I can understand myself deeper, and how I can be more present to my reactions, and how I can be more present to my strengths, and also how I can integrate any challenges that life might, bring about. And it's really not about predicting the future, it's more about being able to stay present to what themes might present themselves at any given time, in my life.
Mm.
So that was a journey of understanding how sensitive my nervous system really is, and how I've had to navigate as a single Indian woman, living through three different countries on her own, and navigating and understanding how to show up without compromising my femininity. Because when you're on your own, you have to lead, you have to be
Mm.
independent, you have to know where to go and do things, you have to direct yourself all the
Mhm.
time. And that can leave you feeling very much in your masculine state in terms of having to plan constantly. And I did not
Mhm.
want to compromise my femininity in that process. And astrology kind of
Beautiful.
also allowed me to sink into my femininity more, because it showed me that this is my natural way of being. And so, how can I bring that about in my everyday life?
Wow, thank you so much. There's so much that I want to dive into with what you shared. And particularly, I'm interested in talking about astrology, um, definitely diving into all of the various topics of sensitivity. But yeah, I don't know that much about astrology. Like most people, I've just had sort of a fascination and it's just sort of a fun thing. And what you shared really stood out to me, that it's about staying present for the themes that come up, if I heard correctly. And I want to write that down. um, was that how you phrased it? To be
I did.
present for the various themes. So it's not
I
about
did.
predicting.
There is predictive astrology, and I think that there is a place for it. And when it's done authentically with the right kind of consciousness that is embodied in the astrologer,
Mm-hmm.
because you're trying to balance free will and destiny at the same time.
Mm.
And it takes a lot of consciousness to be fully present in how you dance that dance with the person who's sitting in front of you. And
Yeah.
I'm of the belief, based on my own life experience, that we are evolutionary beings. We're here to grow and learn. And so, in a way, predictive astrology, if we can understand the theme that is kind of holding that space, rather than this is exactly what's going to happen, then there's a lot of room for growth, evolution, and expansion in life. So
Mm-hmm.
um, that's where the evolutionary part of astrology comes in, and that's how I basically do my sessions with my clients. Yeah.
Wow. Wow. I'm going to need to sign up for a session. Now, I mean, yeah, I just I find it so interesting, just I'm really fascinated with that type of astrology and really interested to open my mind to that, to see, because what you shared is it has just made such a big difference in informing how you go about your life and your life journey. And it sounds like it even led you to start a business surround, at least part of your business offering these astrological readings. And I feel like so many people who form a business, have that experience of being on their spiritual journey, spiritual entrepreneurs, like doing our own work, and then like, oh wow, I would love to offer this to other people. So that's wonderful. Um, so then, as far as your work with HSPs, and for those who are watching who aren't familiar, we're referring to this term highly sensitive people. Um, so how how do you, as a highly sensitive entrepreneur, what are some ways that you take care of yourself, that you find to make being an entrepreneur manageable? I think that's
Mm.
um, just a big question we could probably go into for like a half hour, but yeah, any tips
Um,
you have?
the biggest thing I actually learned was the difference between a highly sensitive person and an empathic person. And that
Mhm.
really made it more concrete in the way that I am as well. And the difference is, and this is, I think, by the psychologist or psychotherapist Elaine Aron, who researched about highly sensitive people in the 1990s. And she says that highly sensitive people are very sensitive to their environment, such as noise and external triggers. And there are
Mhm.
about 15 to 20% of these people in the world. So we aren't a very big bunch. Um, Having said that, I do still believe that all of us are actually sensitive, but we are highly sensitive, as the name suggests. And
Mhm.
empaths fall under the category of highly sensitive, and they take this sensitivity one step further in that they're not only sensitive and porous to the external environment, that's a physical environment, but they're also very porous to the emotional and spiritual environment, meaning to say that we can pick up on emotions when we are with people or when we even think about them. And we
Yep.
can, and when we're not clear about our boundaries, we can process those emotions for them without even knowing. And
Mm.
so when we understand where we fall into this category, it gives us a better idea of how to manage ourselves. And this is how astrology came into being. And it helped me see my sense. I knew I was highly sensitive, but I didn't know how it was playing out in my life. And then astrology kind of helped me fully feel settled with my sensitivity and my empathic
Uh-huh.
nature, and then helped me understand what boundaries are and how to go about my everyday life. And I think for a highly sensitive people and an empath, a list of tips is also against a lot of structure.
Mhm.
Um, so it's really about being masterfully present to every moment. This is the biggest tip I can give to an empath or a highly sensitive person, is rather than a long list of do's and don'ts, is just to bring your attention constantly back to yourself in the moment. And when I was starting to learn how to do this, I would put 3 or 4 reminders on my phone throughout the day, just a 1 minute reminder, just to check in, because we're so out of our body and in our mind most of the time, interacting
Mhm.
with so many stimulus around. So I had this, I think there was a time there was 6 reminders on my phone to just come back to yourself, how you're feeling right now. That's it. Nothing more. It wasn't a complicated process. It was like, how are you feeling right now? And then when I was able to acknowledge the feeling in that moment, then I could decide what was the next thing I needed to do. So if I was feeling unsettled, then great. At least now my awareness is in the fact that my body is not feeling happy or it's uncomfortable or unsettled.
Mhm.
and then I can decide what to do next. So it's
Yeah.
about being masterfully present to the moment.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
beautiful. And I could just get that reminder all the time. I mean, I feel like I do try to practice that. But some days, you just get kind of lopsided. And, to be transparent, I know Pavrita is already familiar, but for the audience, I am an HSP. I'm very open about that. I think it's not something I've shared with people until, maybe the last couple years. But that entirely informs, I mean, my whole life experience. And it really is, I think, the reason I went down a spiritual path. So, my specific modalities are meditation and yoga. Those are the, top two. But it's really fascinating to hear what you shared, Pavrita, about how astrology helped you with your sensitivity. And I hadn't even thought of that. I hadn't even thought of that as a possibility. So it's very fascinating how, I mean, I just feel as highly sensitive people, I mean, it's like finding a lifeline, when you find those practices, because um, we can just so easily get overwhelmed. And we I often say, I actually had another interview with someone who coaches highly sensitive people, and we were just discussing how it really is like a full-time job. The self-care is a full-time job. Okay. And definitely everybody could prioritize that, but highly sensitive people, it's a lifeline. Like, we will shut down. So I just want to, I say that out of compassion, because I love, the work you're doing, because a lot of people don't even understand that they're highly sensitive. They might not even know that at the moment. Um, so from that, I'm really curious. You were sharing about, staying in the present moment. And I just wonder, what happens on that day where, you just get busy, like being an entrepreneur, and I think this can open up our conversation about femininity. Like, as a feminine leader, how are you integrating these practices in your own business?
Mm.
Yeah, any thoughts that you have about that, of, just kind of going away from the hustle culture, and, trying to really honor your sensitive nature, so you can run a business, you can have some kind of life balance as well.
Before this business, like most people, I had a 9 to 5 job. And and during that time, there were many years before I realized I was sensitive when I was in that environment. And that
Mm-hmm.
environment, as you know, is very driven, very a lot of high energy is required to be in that environment, and you don't get a lot of permission to slow down and to, work at your own pace. And one of the things that I did, towards a few years towards the end, as I was wrapping up and transitioning full time into my work, my business, is I started to be very conscious about my work patterns. Firstly, I needed to get to know my own energy patterns. And of course, there is no set energy pattern for any given day. It's great to say wake up at 5 o'clock in the morning, do your meditation, do your morning rituals, and
Mm-hmm.
make that consistent every single day. But the feminine nature and the sensitive nature is not like that. If I had a very overwhelming evening, just purely because of emotional overdrive, we get
Yeah.
so affected by everything, or it may have been the full moon or the new moon, and my emotions are in overdrive. I'm not going to be able to wake up the next day morning at 5 o'clock
Yeah.
to do my practice. And this is about being extremely gentle and kind and nurturing to our own process, even if we set a goal in place. So
Mm-hmm.
once I got to understand my energetic highs and lows, I was able to then honor them and then find a way to communicate them to, say your manager or your team or whoever you're working with. And it's
Mm,
a journey. It's the first step is to actually understand your own pattern. So
yeah.
there are times when I know there's a day that I am going to be highly alert. And this is obviously usually after my period when I've got a lot of energy. I feel this new rush of rebirth happening. I feel clear in my body as a woman. And so
Mm-hmm.
I know I get a lot of highly focused, highly directive, planning oriented tasks during this time. And so I plan in such a way that that is what I do during that time.
Ah,
And then I know that when I hit my ovulation time, I know I'm peaking at the time and things start to get a little bit full in my body. It's all the sensation in the body. And
mm-hmm.
so then I know it's like, okay, this highly driven nature is now going to start to
Mm-hmm.
plateau a little bit and then it's going to drop. And I have to be completely aware of this drop
Mm-hmm.
and to be super nurturing. I'm not going to be as driven. I'm not going to have as much energy as I did in the first 2 weeks, and my sensitivity is going to get even more heightened as I'm falling towards my premenstrual time.
Yeah.
And that's when I plan a lot of rest. I don't usually initiate a lot of conversations around that time. And over the last few years, when I am bleeding, I'm very, very mindful of not working because it
Yeah.
takes extra effort to be able to be in my mind because at that time my entire awareness naturally wants to be in my body with myself.
Beautiful, beautiful. And I just think, what you shared, it's so important for us to say this out loud, and that's why I'm so glad we're doing this as a live stream. This is going to be on my YouTube channel cuz I just think women do not hear this. So what you shared can be applicable to all women, I feel like. But then as a highly sensitive person, we have even more considerate, like we have to take it really seriously. And I think you just reminded me, like, sometimes I don't take it seriously. And I know that I totally relate, to having that day where there is just a little bit more going on. Like last night, I had to take my cat to the vet, came out and I was completely drained. So I knew I've got to go to sleep early. No, I'm not going to pretend that I need to, stay up and watch Netflix, and just make sure I got enough sleep. And then after our interview, I'm going out to the hot tub. I don't feel guilty about that. I have to take care of myself because I know if I go from this interview right into, doing 5 things for my business, like I will need a nap and that's okay. But why not just put the self care in place and, like, the hot tub's right outside. So anyway, I just say that to, because I think what you shared, it gives people permission, and sometimes we need that because the entire culture, I don't know about India, but I definitely feel like, the Western world is very much into productivity and, go, go, go. And, and to focus on everybody else, but don't really focus on yourself. So
It's the
thank
same
you.
here, Sarah. Yeah, it's the same here. And I want to highlight that what's becoming clear, and I've heard this and I've read this, but it's becoming more alive in my body, is that women, and this, as you say, whatever I've just shared is for all women, not just highly sensitive women. We obviously have to be a little bit more alert, but every woman goes through these cycles, and we have periods where we are extremely more sensitive than other times. But this is true in that women are spiritual leaders, men are physical leaders of this
Yeah.
world, but we are spiritual leaders. And for us to be absolutely attuned to the subtle energies of life, we have, which is our, which is our gateway into intuition and visions and everything about this, subtle realm. We
Mm-hmm.
have to be able to honor our body, because it is through the body that we get these signals. It's through the body that we feel intuitively inspired for the next step in our lives, or creation, or whatever that is we do. So if we can remember that we are actually the spiritual leaders, and it's not about ego, like we're better than men or less than men. It's about, this is our role in society. Men have a role in society as leaders, as physical leaders. So how do we embody this role, not as a power struggle, but just as this, what's been gifted to us when we came into this world in this body?
Yes, I love that. I love that. And I think it is now time, that women have, from what I've seen, many women in my life, and it's been my experience for a brief period of time, where, it's just so easy to go into that masculine energy because that has been the dominant energy. And it often, can feel like, oh, well, we won't fit in if we don't take on this masculine energy. So what are some other ways? Because I have an audience, actually most of my audience on my YouTube channel is men, according to the statistics, because of course it's a channel that focuses a lot on technology. So definitely we want to give some tips for men as well. How can they honor their femininity? And I do have a question I want to get to. Thank you, Sebastian. I see your question, and thank you so much for joining us. So great to have you all here live. So before we get to Sebastian's question, I just want to touch on, any tips you have for men honoring their femininity, and, how we can all just kind of embrace both sides. I don't know how to phrase it, but to really honor both types of energy in our work and personal life.
Wow, that question actually threw me off guard. I think what comes to me in terms of men is presence, is how can they stay still in the void of nothingness. So that is where their strength lies. And that's where they become more connected to the subtle realms and become more compassionate in who they are. And instead of always being driven, they can also take a back seat into looking after themselves in that place of complete stillness. And in order for them, I mean, this is the beauty of men and women in this world, is that men are inspired by femininity and women are inspired by masculinity, and that's how we learn how to integrate that in our own bodies by watching this play that's happening in our external world. It's no coincidence that what's already integrated or not integrated in our own body is how we interact with the masculine or the feminine that is in our lives and further out into the world. So the more we can find that subtle movements in our body and how it shows up every single time. And also I notice when I'm with a man, I want to be more present in my femininity and allow him to be more present in his masculinity. So then there's that polarity, because if I'm with a man and I'm coming from a place of masculinity, it's going to feel like competition or like trying to there's no polarity, and it just can feel a little off. And so we kind of support each other. And I think this might be a little controversial, but I don't believe in feminist in feministic tendencies, if you know what I mean, where I believe in equanimity rather than equality.
Lovely. That we could go into another 30-minute discussion on. I would love to have you back on. We could just make that a topic, because that has my wheels turning. I'm really thinking about that right now. That's
Yeah, I think
great.
that's probably the first time I've said it out loud to, I've had these conversations privately with friends where I shared my feeling and my opinion being a woman.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's controversial if you come from a place of she's right and she's wrong, or I'm right and they're wrong.
Yeah.
It's not controversial if we're coming from a place of let's look into this, let's explore together. If you can
Yeah.
change my views, then please, I'm open-minded and looking forward to that. And so yeah, it's definitely a topic that we can talk for hours on end.
Yeah, and I really get what you're saying, if I'm understanding correctly. And I agree that it's really about more taking a spiritual approach. It's not about saying you're right and I'm wrong. It's just about how can we come together and get to know each other and make this a more satisfying experience, that we all need to get our needs met. And so maybe that is the next evolution of the feminist movement, of just being a lot more tolerant and having more equanimity. I think that is just amazing.
Yeah. And I think, having lived in the West, I lived in New Zealand and Australia for 20 years, and I've just returned to India. So I grew up in India. So I'm blessed now. And, when I was younger, I was like, this is all too confusing. My culture is like this, and I'm in this different world. And
Mm,
I had to embody a little more masculine energy, but it didn't come easy to me. And so I'm able to now, because I've had half my life here in India in the East and half my life in the West, to act and to come back now as an adult and see this whole play out differently and see this integration in my body. Like, wow, yes, India, Indian women are more graceful in the way they surrender, but they surrender too much in the way that they lose their own power and their integrity. And
mm-hmm.
in the West, what I noticed was I had to force myself to be in my femininity because the energy was pulling me to be more masculine in my energy. So,
Mm-hmm.
there's this beautiful play also happening in the way that the world also is trying to balance itself out and integrate
Yeah.
through our different cultures as well. So it's not right or wrong, but it's like there's such good aspects to both. And if we as individuals can learn and find that that sweet spot in our own body, then
Yeah.
it just naturally inspires who we come in touch with. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I just want to create a bookmark here to say that, we do have a lot to learn from anyone who's transgender or non binary, that they really are incorporating both masculine and feminine in a way that we could really learn from. So I just want to, say that we are including everyone here in this conversation. So, let's go ahead. Sebastian has a question. He wanted to know, or they wanted to know, how does one differentiate from a genuine astrologer to a faux one?
That's a very good question because I've had both. I've had genuine astrologers and not so genuine ones in my life. And the way that you are going to know is firstly, through your body. In the beginning, I do believe that whoever comes into your life, for me, all the astrologers who have come into my life, even the bad ones, were put there for a purpose because of them I actually dived more into astrology because I wanted to learn and get my power back because they actually took away all of my power. And
Mm,
then when you say, you've got an astrologer and you feel like you want to speak to them and you go forward with them, there are a few things to remember. The first one is that the consciousness of the astrologer is going to impact how they read your chart. That is how it is because they are the ones who are channeling your chart. And we're all human beings. We cannot fully step out of it. But the more aware as an astrologer I am that this is not me right now, this is this other person. And the more I can embody this other person, the more I can be present to what is showing up for them. That's great, but it's my consciousness is being passed on in the way that I am reading this person, my client's chart. So that's one. And two is, as I am reading your chart, if every aha moment is not already something that you kind of knew somewhere at the back of your mind or your body or somewhere, then we're out of alignment. Because I honestly believe that astrology reflects back to you what you already know, whether that's conscious yet or not, it always does. That is why you know everything. You're just here for reaffirmation. So astrology reaffirms, I'm not giving you something you don't already know in a way. And every time that I've reached out for an astrologer is unconsciously a way to reaffirm my next step. So reaffirm if this challenging time that I'm going through in my life is what it seems to be, or is this where it's heading? So I'm speaking from a more conscious place right now, but at that time when I wasn't conscious, I would go and say, tell me what's going to happen. Is this going to end? Because that's what you want to hear. If it's a challenging time, or if my life's going to get better, am I going to meet someone? Am I going to get a new job? But those all questions are weighted with some consciousness that we already know. And the person who's reading it, a good one, will match that. And the third point that I want to make is that if at any moment in time when you're sitting in front of the astrologer and your body is going through like you feel incredibly uncomfortable, not because they are, they are challenging you to dive a little deeper into your subconscious mind, that's just a different type of discomfort. The other discomfort I'm talking about is where you don't feel seen at all. You don't feel acknowledged, you don't feel seen, you don't feel at one with the astrologer. Then run. If they say anything that disempowers you in the moment, walk out, and you can always walk out. I wish I had learned that when I was younger, is to have the courage to walk out when someone was disempowering me in the moment.
Yeah. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing those tips. I'm going to be adding chapters to this YouTube video. So anyone that wants to go back and watch the replay, I feel like, you've just shared so many great tips. I could go back, I could, watch it and write it down, because I think that's very valuable. Those are things that I hadn't heard before, but completely make sense, because we don't want to give our power away. The spiritual journey is never about giving our power away. It's about how can we deepen our own experience and bring more awareness to what we're experiencing in our everyday life. So that makes sense. Thank you for clarifying that.
Thank you for Sebastian for asking that question.
Yes, thank you, Sebastian. So right now we are actually going to move into the YouTube coaching. So I'm laughing because, we're getting to these deep conversations, and then now we're going to talk about what I do, which is to help people with their visibility, and to be clear, that is why I work with wellness business owners, with spiritual entrepreneurs, because I so believe in the message that so many coaches and wellness business owners they're putting out these services, to help change the world. And we want to help them be visible. So that's what I do. So I'm going to go ahead, just have to bring up your YouTube channel.
And while you do that, I'm going to shift from my body to my mind.
Yes, right? It is definitely a shift. So, all right. And I'm going to bring your channel on screen here. There we go. Awesome. Okay. All right, so let me share my screen. And then you'll have an opportunity to ask any questions at all. All right. Apologies for this little delay here. I'm going to be looking over here at my other monitor while we look at Pavrita's YouTube channel here. Okay. There we go. Okay, so here we are on your channel. So first of all, tell me, what are your intentions with YouTube? Are you? It looks like you're getting started, and you've already uploaded quite a number of videos. What would you like help with specifically with your YouTube channel?
So I started this channel, I think in 2019 or 2018, with absolutely no intention, because, my brain doesn't work well with SEOs and all of those things.
Mm-hmm.
So I just started it and I just started posting videos, and then I took a long break. Like if you actually scroll through, you'll see that there was a long break in between, and then
Mm-hmm.
I was posting randomly. And now with the new edition of the shorts, I started to post them and noticed there was a little bit more views coming through with the shorts.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I'd already done a lot of Instagram reels, so I started to share them slowly. Gosh, I can't believe I've done 70 videos. That's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Um, so, uh, you know, I'm like a complete beginner, so I would actually look to you for any beginner tips that I could use, um, for my YouTube to gain some traction. And the other question is a very specific, basic, very simple question, is that if I were to go into a video that's already published and want to change the thumbnail, is that
Mm-hmm.
even possible if you don't have a certain number of subscribers? Yeah, that's one of the questions that just came through.
Okay. Thank you. Well, congratulations, first of all, on just continuing to upload, repurposing your videos. That often is what I see, people getting started with YouTube and they're already making videos on another social media site. And so it does make sense to repurpose. And I think your idea to upload your Instagram videos was really smart because you already had that content, and YouTube within the past year, a little over a year, they've really pushed out shorts, and it's just going to continue because they do want to compete with TikTok and with everyone. they
Mm,
they want to be number one. They want to stay relevant. So shorts are going to continue to be huge on YouTube. So first of all, your question about just continuing to build your presence and grow your channel, there are a few just foundational things that I recommend. So it's never too late to do this. So the first thing is, it's interesting. So there is a space on Customize Your Channel within YouTube Studio. You can go in there and you can create a featured video. And
mm,
so I understand the way they're displaying it now on the desktop is a little different. But if you go onto my channel, you'll be able to see I have the most recent video I usually put up there. But they give you two options. They have one video that is for new people coming to your channel. You've literally never looked at your page. And then the other one is for people who are returning.
yeah.
And so this is good because when you can customize it, you can create a video for people first seeing your channel that kind of introduces what your channel is all about. And I am a big, as I'm sure you're familiar, I'm a big proponent of storytelling.
Mm,
So one of the best ways to connect with your audience is just to share your story, but to do it in a simplified way. So I recommend like no longer than a 2-minute video.
mm,
And that just kind of, summarizes, okay, this is my journey. This is why I'm running my business. And this is how I can help you. And make sure you focus on the audience and say, this is how I'm going to guide you. This is what my content is all about. And that's why you want to come back here, because, this is what I'm sharing.
Right. Beautiful.
Yeah. And so the other thing, you've already done your banner, which is amazing. I love the presence of this, the energy, and you already have good branding here with the banner at the top. You've already got all your links there. So that's great. I think, yeah, the only thing I would add is that featured video.
Okay.
And then as far as the shorts, I would really encourage you just, keep doing more shorts, keep repurposing, because as you said, they do get more views, or they're starting to get more views, and you can always pivot. Like if you, at this moment, you just wanted to make this channel about shorts because maybe you don't have time, to put into the longer videos, or alternatively, maybe you just do a longer video once a month, when you're able to, you can still continue to gain traction with shorts. So I always recommend, like, people focus on your strengths, like the type of video you're interested in, because that, is always going to be reciprocal. Like people can tell, oh, this is the format she likes, and the energy comes across. So how does that sound to you?
That's perfect. And I noticed that the shorts are only 60 seconds long, right?
That's right. And
Yeah.
one thing to really keep in mind is it actually cannot even be over. It cannot be 1 minute and 1 second.
Yeah.
So just something to keep in mind if you did like a 90-second Instagram video, and sometimes it can be hard to cut down a short, but YouTube is very, very rigid, I guess, about that, so it won't go in. In other words, to be clear, like, it will show on your YouTube channel. It just doesn't go into what they call the shorts feed. So when you're
Right.
scrolling on the YouTube homepage, your video, the thumbnail won't appear there, and that's where most of the views from shorts come.
Right.
So
Perfect. Yeah, that's
yeah.
amazing. I can definitely do a feature video, and I can just yeah, port most of my reels from Instagram onto YouTube and then continue to do them both together.
Yeah, wonderful. And then when you're inspired, you can start doing some longer videos.
Yes,
And
like I did today. Yeah.
and that is, I really think, the strength of YouTube.
Yeah.
Like, why are we on YouTube? Yes, they're going in the direction of shorts, but the longevity of YouTube is what's amazing. So even with
Yes.
this interview that we're doing, I mean, somebody could find it 3 years from now. And that
True.
has happened with many videos on my channel where it's like, oh, there's no views. I mean, literally years can go by, and then all of a sudden it gets picked up in the algorithm. So it's really
Mm,
more of a search engine, compared to all the other places. And it's a place where it's a repository. So,
yes.
people are most likely not going to find a video, 3 years from now on Facebook. Um,
Very true. That is so true. Yes.
yeah. So, I heard you ask one question. I just want to address that about the thumbnail. So, yes, you can go in, you can change any of your thumbnails. And if I may, I would suggest, with your thumbnails here, the text is a little hard to read.
Yeah.
So, just keep in mind, like, half of the people scrolling on YouTube are on their mobile phone. And
Mm,
so keeping the font really big on your
Big.
thumbnails is a good
Gotcha.
way, to help people just, as they're scrolling, just kind of be able to read it quickly and then decide if they're going to click on it.
Perfect.
Yeah. All
Amazing.
right.
But when I tried to change a thumbnail from a video that I'd already posted, there was no option to change it. So that's when I thought
Hmm.
maybe it's to do with people who have a certain number of subscribers. Um,
No.
no?
Um,
Okay. Then I'm going to go back and have a look again.
yeah, if you'd like, feel free to send me a screenshot. It could have just been a glitch the day that you were looking.
Yeah.
Were you on your mobile phone or on your desktop?
Yeah,
Do you
on my
remember?
laptop. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's going to be easier to change it on the desktop for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, I was on the desktop, but maybe I didn't look closer.
It
Maybe I
is
gave
a
up too soon.
there once you go in to edit a video, there is a lot to look at. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's kind of, you just have to scroll like halfway through. Um, but yeah, feel free to send me a screenshot,
I
like if you
will.
don't see it.
But I am enjoying the now posting on YouTube a lot more. It's only recently in the last 2, 3 weeks because I discovered Shorts. I wasn't aware of Shorts until about 3 weeks ago. So,
Oh
and
wow.
to watch the number of views, even if it's, short length views,
Mm-hmm.
um, it's still good to see that it's getting some views. And so, as you say, I think it was very encouraging to hear you say that even if there are no views now, somewhere in the algorithm, something changes and something gets picked up in the
Yep.
future. So whatever you're posting and sharing is, of course, for you and as a way to inspire and attract more people to your work and business.
Mm-hmm.
And it's good to know that if it's not always about immediate gratification again. It can, pick itself up whenever that works.
Yeah. Yeah, that is one of the things I love about YouTube, just the opportunity to help people long term. Often we hear that term evergreen content. So
Mm,
you're making something right now, posting something today that can help people 3 years from now,
yeah,
and potentially a lot of people, if it gets picked up in the algorithm.
yeah,
And then I just really want to again just compliment you here, because with the shorts, like, I mean, you said you just started posting recently, and it's just great. YouTube displays it right on the homepage, so you
yeah.
can emphasize that on your channel, and people can just come and start diving
Perfect.
into your content.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Sarah. That was so helpful.
Thank you. And I look forward to seeing how it goes for you. And I'll keep up with your channel. And for everyone watching, we're going to have Pavrita's YouTube link below. Please go check out her channel. And is there anything else you would like to share with people, Pavrita, about where they can find you and how they could work with you?
Firstly, I want to thank you so much for inviting me. I've so thoroughly enjoyed this. I think there was just such a beautiful, natural flow to our conversation. I really, really enjoyed it.
Me too.
And
Thank you.
and and it's lovely, I think, at this time of the night in your early morning, something magical about it too.
Mm-hmm.
And in terms of how people can find me, I am on YouTube, as you know, also on Instagram. So my catchphrase is walking the path of tender authority. So tender authority is my, um, what is the word you use for Instagram? Username? What is it?
Oh, the name of my Instagram, or
my
sorry.
Instagram, the name of my Instagram is Tender Authority. I think I don't know what you refer to
Oh
it
yeah,
as.
and we'll put your Instagram in the description
Yeah.
too.
So my website is currently getting updated at the moment. So if you want to get in touch with me through the social channels, that would be great. And if you're looking for an astrology reading, either a 60-minute one or a 90-minute one, whether that's the first time you're getting an astrology reading, or you want to just know what's coming up for your birth year, or we're also coming towards the end of, wow, we're almost 4 months into, and we'll be in 2023. So if there's anything you want to explore in terms of who you are, how your sensitivity shows up, how you can understand how your emotions play out, and if you're a woman, if there's any way that you would like to know a little bit more and understand more about how to embrace and embody your femininity, I do one-to-one coaching. And I'm also in the process of recording some um, meditations and posting them on my website. Um, and I'm also in the process of creating some group workshops and webinars. So if you want to keep updated, please email me or text me and I'll add you to my newsletter as well. So lots of things coming up, but at the moment they're all in the creative space. Yeah, but one-on-ones, I'm available.
Lovely, lovely. Yes, everyone, please get in touch with Pavrita and continue to follow her on Instagram and YouTube and get it. Like she said, you can join her newsletter for some great tips. And everyone, thank you so much for joining us. These are really unusual conversations, I would say. So it's a real pleasure and an honor, Pavrita, to have you here, to sharing your wisdom with people. And I hope anyone who's watching, please share this with your friends. Let other people know these are topics that can really help people and change their lives. So thank you so much again. And Pavrita, I hope you have a wonderful evening. And we're definitely going to connect again soon because this was so much fun.
Thank you, Sarah. I can't, I mean, I'm just so inspired by your screen presence and the way you connect with your audience so easily. I love it. And thank you so much for having me. And yes, I'm looking forward to connecting with you offline and potentially back online in the future.
Yes, yes. Beautiful.
Thank
All right.
you.
Thank you. Good night and good
Bye-bye.
morning, everyone.
Yes.
Bye.